Welcome to iAfrica Media, the biggest media platform for all things eye care on the African continent. Today, I'm with the awesome Dr. Sachin Bawa. How are you today, Doc?
Very good, and you?
I'm very, very well. I had the privilege of meeting Dr. Bawa. I think it was around 2012, 13 at the time, and you were working at a very small practice downtown Johannesburg at Bank City.
That was good times. Bank City was a great place, in the heart of the CBD, very exciting, busy place. It felt like you were going to work every day because you were going to the city, so you felt like you were like all the other office workers going to the city, coming out of the bank, and it was a great feeling, thinking that you're working in this big bank, but you were just working on the side hustle on the side street, doing a bit of ophthalmology.
Yeah. Doc, how long were you there, and how did you end up being at Bank City? Such an unusual spot for an ophthalmologist to be.
Okay, I started private practice in Bedford View, and it was very challenging, very slow, very quiet, and I was always looking for a second avenue or side hustle. And I always had this the love for the CBD, the city. You know, from an architectural point of view, and just the history of Joburg CBD. And I had a friend who was doing dermatology in the CBD, and she kind of introduced me to the idea of joining that medical practice. And I had a look, and immediately, day one, got there, had a look, and said, I'm going to start there.
Wow.
And it was amazing because it took me literally 2 hours in the CBD, walking around and introducing myself to optometrists, and within 2 hours I'd seen 3 patients. We're starting in private practice in the suburbs. It took like 6 months to see 1 patient.
Wow.
This
Was a completely different approach.
It was totally different. It was a game changer for me.
One thing that stood out for me when I met you, I was obviously working at a practice in downtown as well for Hilton Morrow, Chaplin's Optometrist, a phenomenal practice. But one thing that stood out for me was that when he introduced me to you and said, Dr. Bawa, you immediately then sort of like, no, just call me Sachin. You were the first ophthalmologist that I was exposed to at the time that did not put the title before the person. It's as if you didn't want to be associated with, you are an ophthalmologist, I must hold you in this high regard. And then when I look at how you interacted with your patients, one thing that stands out again was you were very relatable, because the patient profile was very diverse in the CBD. And so how did that come about? Or have you always been this chilled, humble person that lets your work speak for itself?
Yeah, I think ophthalmologists are not doctors. We are technicians. We're not real doctors. The real doctors work on the heart, So maybe that's why we don't call ourselves doctors. But the CBD, very different patient profile compared to the suburbs. Mixed profile of foreigners, locals, and all the different cultures, insured, non-insured, and patients who just wanted to get better quickly and couldn't wait in the queues in clinics, to get attended to, and were happy to come, pay a small fee and move on. So I think we're living in a world of convenience, and people want accessibility to healthcare, quick and affordable. And our practice in the CBD was that we were centrally located, we were accessible, and we were really cost effective for patients. I don't think it was a good business case for me because we charged a very entry level fee, but we were treating those kind of patients, and it built on that just being available and being accessible and relatable to patients.
With you being in the CBD, with there being a lot of optometrists around the area, obviously then you become that immediate contact person for pathology related stuff that was outside of the scope of practice for optometrists. Now, with the amount of referrals that you would get, what makes it easier for an ophthalmologist to work with an optometrist when it comes to referrals? Because I could imagine someone is referring stuff to you
Yeah.
that you feel like you could have seen this yourself in practice, versus where you're like, okay, now send this to me. Because I noticed one thing when we had obviously advanced technological equipment in chaplains at the time. We would take a picture, send it to you. Sometimes you would be like, you know what, I'll come across.
Yeah.
You personalize that experience. So there were times when I would see you walking to practices to come and see the patient there. Other times, the patient would be sent to you, but because of the economic status of patients,
Yes.
you were very much, I don't know.
We're mindful.
You're mindful of that. So how the question then becomes, how does the economic cost of the patient's situation influence how optometrists were referring patients to you? That influenced how you were taking it case by case in terms of what would make it easy for a referral to be sent to you. I don't know if I'm making sense, in the sense that if ophthalmologists have an issue of time.
Yeah, so I think the issue of time, so you sending a photo of an OCT scan is sorts out that issue of time, because it's a quick look at a WhatsApp and saying to you, refer, don't refer, or follow up, or reassure the patient, and that convenience factor for the optometrist is great, because you can relate the information on. The patient is not exposed to another fee from another healthcare provider, and maybe that builds the relationship between ophthalmology and optometry from a working together kind of point of view, and you feeling that it's easy to approach a colleague for advice and information, as opposed to being unsure and referring everything. Also giving you confidence in terms of what you refer, and also I think from a business point of view, maybe as an ophthalmologist you become top of mind for the optometrist, because when there is pathology to refer, that's surgical, then
you the person that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Does it accessibility? What influenced you becoming accessible to the optometrist in the area? Was it purely from you want to be the ophthalmologist of choice in the area, or was it because you approach ophthalmology from a technical point of view in terms of the work that you do?
Yes.
Was it you trying to differentiate yourself as the go-to person regarding your specific competency areas of interest, or was it influenced on you want to know as many optometrists as you possibly can in the area, so that everyone in the CBD refers people to you? What was your thinking process around that?
So the thinking process is ultimately, besides it being healthcare and service orientated, it's business orientated. So you've got to marry the healthcare service with the business, because otherwise you're not profitable, you're not going to be viable. So the business point of view was building relationships with the optometrist, doing the CPD talks in the CBD, and just being available to the optometrist. And it was not so much about trying to reach everyone, it was trying to do something well. So doing what you do it well, offer the service well, from patient's first experience to last experience, from the coming in and facing the receptionist to the experience with the surgeon. So just providing, doing your craft well, and loving what you do, and letting the patients feel that, and obviously that resonates to the optometrist, that there's no sort of hierarchy here in terms of we're all working together, and patients that are referred, they do come back, and that was my sort of angle. It is business, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What were your specialty areas specifically that you focus on when you were still in Bank City?
So predominantly cataract surgery, still cataract surgery. So so cataract surgery, any anterior setting surgery, pterygium surgery, keratoconus. In Bank City, because of the LSM group, the patient profile predominantly working for government departments, having medical insurance through government, and obviously working in town, not having to travel out to the bigger hospitals, the net cares and mediclinics, and going out of town for service. There was service in the area, And patients could be taken to a nearby clinic within the CBD for private surgery. And that's predominantly we focused on cataract surgery, providing cataract surgery not only to the insured but also to the uninsured. So we kind of played a bit of a Robin Hood kind of game where we helped the non-insured, or those that couldn't afford cataract surgery. So we would take them and do them at a very subsidized rate, or just they pay the theatre, and we would do the cataract surgery pro bono. But at the same time, we had medical aid patients on that theatre slate. So it kind of, you know, your time is covered because you are there anyway, you are operating, you're just spending an extra 20 minutes, it's not costing you much. But that is your advert. You doing a patient, that's word of mouth, he goes home, he tells everyone he's been operated on, he has cataract. So there's a lot of pro bono surgery which turned out to be adverts.
Wow, and I guess the work spoke for itself then. But then that, for me, sounds like you have to really care. You can't be just on the clinical side, and at the same time you can't be just on the business side.
No, sure.
You have to care for the person, and you keep on making reference to the patient experience, the patient outcomes, and that you want this person to be able to say, hey, this was my problem before with my eyes, and now Dr. Bawa has sorted me out, and this is how I'm seeing. If I look back now in terms of we are in a state of the art, world class,
all because of town, of the CBD.
So that's where
that was the seed.
That was the seed. Now fast track. We're skipping a lot of years now, where you end up taking that big chance and say, I want to go and build a state of the art practice, standalone, something that you don't find a lot of in the country, and you are in an area whereby it's sort of like a bridge between patients that can afford to pay the high cost, but at the same time, you still see that large portion of patients who perhaps finances are still a bit of a challenge. How did you then, what was the steps involved in you then saying, this is where I want to go, this is the type of practice that I want to eventually have, and what was involved in the build-up that led to where we are today?
So, the barrier for patients seeking healthcare in the private sector is exorbitant theatre costs, or surgical costs. And that was the barrier in terms of getting the patients who couldn't afford into theatre to help them to get going. And always felt that if you controlled the procedure room, if you owned it and you control the costs, and if you are vertically integrated, you can then offer affordable surgery, right? And also contain those costs and see more of those patients that can't afford, you know, fees outside or fees that are offered at other private facilities. So that was the intention, was to make it accessible to everyone. So to pretty much democratize cataract surgery, right? So to make a social impact, because we know we live in a country with huge inequality, and socioeconomic issues are a major challenge, right? So what I found in Bank City was that I would get a patient coming in. He would be, for example, a 42-year-old welder, and his income was based on a daily wage.
For sure.
And because he had visual impairment from cataract, he couldn't get his work done. And because he didn't have medical insurance, he couldn't go get his eyes done in private. He had to go to a state facility. And our state facilities are good, but they are overburdened, they are under pressure, and patients wait long periods,
much longer
than they should to get surgery done. So the whole thinking is that patients are going to have cataract surgery. It's a 30-minute, 20-minute procedure, and there's no reason why someone needs to wait 2 years for a 20-minute procedure, right? So that he could improve his life and his family's life. So this welder would have his eyes done, right? We did his eyes pro bono through a foundation that sponsors the theatre, and he could then go home and put bread on the table.
100%.
And a lot of these families are breadwinners for extended people, not for one person, for 5 people. So you're making
100%
impact not only in that person, but
so
it's a social economic
100%
impact, not just the health care impact, and it's a spin-off.
Wow.
For us, especially in this type of setting in this country. So in this kind of setting, we can offer more surgery because we don't turn patients away. If they can't afford it, we do it for them.
Wow.
Okay, at reduced rates or at no rate, at no charge. So we do quite a fair share of a non-profit work. Yeah.
There's an ophthalmologist listening to watching this and they're thinking to themselves, it's almost impossible to do that in 2023, to choose that route as a differentiator in terms of, firstly, the type of ophthalmologist that I want to be, or secondly, the type of ophthalmology practice I want to run. So what are some of the barriers to entry or challenges that you encountered in setting up this? Because we'll get into it now, but I mean, this is world class. What your eye surgeon here, it's world class. So what are some of the practical challenges outside of the actual ophthalmology work that you do? What are some of the dynamics that are involved in setting up a practice like this? Because that's a big jump from what your costs were then to what your costs would have been in setting up an institution like this, basically.
Yeah, so the challenge one is overcoming anxiety, the feeling that you're going to fail, or that is this the right move, moving away from a big hospital group. Secondly is the regulatory issues from hospital accreditation and licensing and all of those approvals. So a facility like this is designed by healthcare architects in mind of hospital requirements in terms of the finishes, the flooring, the spacing, all of that. So those are the challenges of getting things done. You've got to do it right, and you've got to make it safe for the patient. So there's a lot of work done in terms of administrative point of view, from like creating policies. What do you call those policies? SOPs.
Yes.
Yeah. Those, yeah. So that was challenging. There's lots of work. Lots of
standard operating procedure.
That's the one. Standard operating procedure. How to put an eye drop in the eye. I had to write a policy on that.
Wow.
You know, so because you are giving your staff training on how to install eye drops, so you've got to create a policy on that. A policy on resuscitation. A policy on
just about everything.
Just about everything. On anything. So health and safety, all of that. Yeah.
Time frames, because this does not happen overnight. Yeah. So I'm thinking of an ophthalmologist who has put in the necessary hours in perfecting their craft, and they're still getting better at it. But they want more. They want to be able to get to a point where they can move away from the perhaps hospital that they're working in to being in a situation where they can run their own practice. Time frames from the time you are in Bank City to where you are now, is it an ongoing process where you're not getting to a point where you say, I've arrived, but you say, you know what, that's the end goal?
Yeah.
How long did it take you though, in the preparatory work that you had to do?
Firstly, there's no end goal, it's just kind of the process. We're just enjoying the process, and we're trying to get to you know, go through the process without hiccups, you know. So the end goal, I think, changes every day. But we just want to provide quality, affordable healthcare with good outcomes, you know. So that's what we want to do. In terms of how long will it take, the timeline to get to something like this, it all depends. When you start your practice, how successful your business is from a practice point of view in the first few years. It took me a long time to get here. And I think that the guys that are starting out now, it's challenging because, you know, equipment prices have shot up.
100%.
When I started, it was 6 rand to the dollar to buy equipment, or, you know, 9 rand to the euro. Now it's 3 times the price, 4 times.
Correct.
So it's quite expensive to really start a practice. My advice to new ophthalmologists is to pretty much join existing practices and grow from there, and not to think of you know, eating from the same pie. It's kind of making the pie bigger, you know. So by working together, we grow the pie, and you know, share our skills, etc. So from a timeline point of view, I think there's easier ways to do what I've done. I've been in practice 12 years. Maybe this could have been done in 3 years or 4 years. But finance obviously is an obstacle. You have to build. Apart from finance, you build a reputation. Patients don't know you when you start out. So you've got to build a name, a brand, etc. So those are the challenges, and like any business, 4 to 5 years before you become profitable, and no different in my case, it was not profitable in the first 5 years. So that's my advice: is you can't really put a timeline to it. Just enjoy the process and try. There are easy solutions. We tend to want to do things by ourselves, and that is the longer route. But working together, I think you can achieve those goals quicker.
What influenced decision-making process regarding the team, the type of working environment? Because for me, when I come here, I look at you were a handful of people when I initially came to this new location. Now you're a team of 3 ophthalmologists or 3 doctors, and you've got a big support structure. But not only that, there are systems in place that you would not necessarily find in a lot of other institutions. So what influenced that? Did you have to go and study further? Were you exposed to different type of practices that influenced how you want to go about differentiating your business here? Were there mentors involved? What influenced some of the things that we see here today?
So in terms of how the practice has grown and what's influenced it, I've traveled and visited many sort of clinics overseas, Asia, India, the UK, and just seeing how they work and kind of take pieces from all of those puzzles and trying to import that into South Africa. To try and, I don't think we should reinvent the wheel. We just kind of copy and paste what's already been done out there and how people are doing it successfully. And from the support staff that we have here, we try and create an environment where we are efficient, we are still convenient, we run on time most of the time. Because patients, that's what it's about today. They want quality service and they want it quickly.
100%.
Right? So thinking of going to the doctor and I'm going to wait hours, that we try to steer away from that. I think I'm making the patient wait by the moment at the moment. But so that we try and have that support staff to make sure that everything flows nicely. In terms of patients getting their testing done before the ophthalmologist sees them, so that they can get answers in a very short period of time. So that's where the support staff comes in, just to kind of have each patient has a dedicated support staff that sorts them out.
How often do you do training for the business?
We do training every week. We do clinical training. We do a very basic training on OCT scans and reading topography, just for the ophthalmic assistants to pick up pathology sometimes, not to explain to the patient, but just to red flag for us to say, hey, you got to look at this scan or that scan. We do lots of other training. A setup like this, we're going to do fire training, we're going to do health and safety training, we're going to do security training, so a whole lot of stuff that we do, sterilization training, we keep up to date with that. So we've got all the SOPs that is a good thing because it makes us follow those rules in order to maintain training and maintain education.
Wow, this is a phenomenal setup. What inspires you? What inspires you?
People inspire me. Dogs inspire me.
What dog do you have?
A Labrador.
A Labrador.
And football inspires me.
What team?
Wits University.
I
don't want to say which international team, but Wits University.
Fantastic. As we're closing off, future of ophthalmology on the African continent or in South Africa, what's your view on it?
I think we need to reduce costs to make it more accessible. I think AI is going to play a big role.
Okay.
Machine learning will play a big role. And then just training clinical associates, training optometrists, training nurses to do certain things that we could hand over. So I think that's going to be the future, but training more doctors, and nurses, that's the key.
Are you open for mentorship?
We are.
There we go. And where can people reach you?
I'm not on social media, but you can reach me on my clinic email, help@eyesurgeon.co.za. That's where you can get us.
Fantastic. Everyone, Dr. Sachin Bawa, check out his phenomenal ophthalmology practice, state of the art. You will definitely be inspired by the work he does. Make sure you connect with iAfrica Media and look forward to the next episode.
Cheers. Thank you.